Have you made a ton of money in the crypto space, or are you planning to make a ton of money in the crypto space? And you're probably going to wonder at some point, how do I get that money into a place to where it's safer? Or do I want to off ramp it? Do I want to invest it again? We're going to be answering a lot of those different questions today. And to answer those questions with us, or and to learn from, I have Jacob Claver here, and he's got some different tips and experiences from helping other people that he when I reached out to him, he said he could help with this topic. So I was like, yes, this sounds great. So thank you so much, Jacob, for coming on and be able to help answer some of these questions.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me. Been following you for a while, and I like the content. I think everybody, you do a good job of explaining things simply for people. So I'm happy to be here and share my knowledge and expertise and help any way that I can.
Thank you. I mean, I really do try. There's many content creators that I feel like have been in the space a lot longer, that consider themselves more expert than I think I do myself. I genuinely try to learn and just share that with others. And so I try to be the voice of the everyman, um, that doesn't know as much about crypto, that's getting in there. I've been around since 2017, but I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from yourself. So thank you so much. Let's get started here. Like, and if I've just made it in crypto, like if I just, XRP takes off, which we're all hoping it will, this year, next, whatever have you, and continue to take off, not just start to, but continue to, because it's fooled us a couple times now. But whether it's that or something else, obviously I have different ways of reinvesting that to where it creates me a passive income that I talk about on my channel. But I'm really interested in, man, if I just want to make a big purchase, how do I get money from the crypto space back to the traditional system in a safe and secure way? Because one of the things I've noticed is I look at the different terms, there's lots of limits on the numbers, on amounts of money you can take. So if you hit it bigger than like 10K, you might be stuck. So
Yeah, yeah. This is a concern that I talk to a lot of people about, and one that I had myself. On the XRP, let's say we see significant run.
yeah.
Um, I did that through Uphold, and it took a long time to get all my money off there.
Mm-hmm.
Their cap is 75,000 a week, which you can withdraw.
Okay.
So I learned my lesson there. You want to deal with a broker. I've got four brokers that we deal with at the family office. One of those is Caleb and Brown. That's primarily who we use. So you would create an account with them. Ideally, your digital assets are held within an LLC. Okay. So that you can offset the tax implications when you do take profit. You can do it as an individual as well, not a problem. Um, if it's in an LLC, it's also going to be less assuming for the bank, and they won't freeze your funds. So I use Bank of America. You can use whatever bank you decide. There's three reasons I use Bank of America. One, Warren Buffett moved all of his stocks there in 2020, sold JP Morgan Chase, sold Wells Fargo. Uncle Warren usually knows what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have over 72 blockchain patents, some of which use Ripple's technology, and they've been a Ripple partner since 2018. So pretty confident they're not going anywhere.
Gotcha.
But you still don't want to say that your bank account is for crypto profits when you talk to them. Okay, so you're going to go in there and you're going to tell them you want to set up a holding company. You've made some investments with your corporation that you hopefully have set up when you go there. You'll have to present them with your articles of incorporation for whatever state that's in, your EIN number. They'll ask you some questions. Make sure you don't say that you're doing any online gambling or any illicit activities. And
And
then
don't
they
be.
will,
Yeah.
yeah, don't be. And then they will ask you, what the account's for and what type of funds you'll be receiving. And you just say, I'm going to be receiving large funds from investments that I've made in my portfolio.
Okay.
And then they're going to ask you, like, is it? And they might say real estate or stocks or whatever, and you say, yeah, private equity and other stuff. And so when they see the funds land from the broker in Australia, and say you do some international deals while you're there, they'll put that on your account. So it's just a lot less assuming, and make sure you preemptively tell them, I'm expecting 6-7 figures to hit this bank account this year with some of the positions that I'll be liquidating.
Okay. So if I understand what you're telling me, I need like anyone who's trying to off ramp large amounts of money, it's best to set up an LLC from your person or for a business, and
Correct.
then that LLC is a good way to, I guess, engage a bank into allowing you to, um, what's the word? To have an account there, because you can't, anything dealing with crypto seems like you can't get a bank account, right? I mean,
They're going to be, yeah, do not mention crypto or digital assets when you are talking to the bank and setting up the account. They'll flag you and sometimes won't even deal with you.
yeah.
Even
Okay.
Bank of America.
I mean, that's just nuts. And I just put out another thing about the banking system and how they're fighting us. But anyways, barring that problem, so now we have to create an account with the brokerage. Let's say we have an LLC, we've gotten a bank account. The next step is to set up with a brokerage. Why do we need the brokerage if we have the LLC?
So they're the one that's going to source liquidity for you when you sell, and be able to wire the funds to your bank account in a short period of time. So if you exited through Uphold, you're going to be limited, and an Uphold will allow you to have an LLC, or a business account on their platform,
Okay.
and they will send to your bank account that's tied to that. But again, you're going to be limited to that 75,000 a week. Coinbase is 100,000.
Okay.
And you might be able to, if you can
Off
reach
ramp both
anybody there.
places.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you have multiple exchanges. That's kind of a pain. And
Yeah.
especially if you see significant price appreciation on stuff, sometimes the exchanges go down. Right. So
Mm.
this is the other benefit of having a broker.
Yep.
During those times, they source liquidity across a bunch of different exchanges and even from private individuals. So they'll be able to execute your trade at whatever price you put in with them, at whatever it is. And then you'll also be able to wire those funds to your bank account next day. You don't have to wait weeks to get it off the platform for large amounts.
Okay. Even if you swap into, let's say, a stable coin, for example, and your stuff is still sitting on the exchange, you're still stuck, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So now does the brokerage, I mean, not your keys, not your crypto, like, are they holding your funds, or can you elaborate on that, I guess?
They are. But I mean, it'd be just the same as if you sent it to an exchange to swap. I view exchanges and brokerages and even stable coins like public restrooms. You get in, do your business, and get out. You don't stay there for very long.
Okay.
So you can set your Caleb and Brown. You can set your account up, have everything linked to it. You don't have to fund anything there. You can leave it. It's set up, ready to go. And then at the point in which you want to transact, you can send your digital assets from your cold wallet to the exchange, which you'll have, a wallet address there that you'll send those funds to. You can call your broker, or you can execute the trade online. They'll process it. And then if you take it in dollars, they'll wire you the money the next day.
Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, they're really just there to get in and get out, and they're not. So it's mainly like you want to send your funds. So let's say everything's XRP goes up, $10, whatever. I want to take some profits. I at that point, I don't decide to sell on the exchange. I decide to send my crypto to the broker instead and say, hey, sell at X price.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Not, I mean, that'd be very nerve-wracking for a large amount of money, but I'm assuming
Well, it's
that
going to be either way if it's on an exchange or through the broker, right? It's not
yeah.
going to be in your cold wallet.
Well, I mean, I've worked with exchanges before. I have not necessarily worked with brokers, like full
Well, you
transparency.
get an
So,
actual person that you can call at Caleb and Brown.
well, I can actually
So
talk to many scammers too. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that, like,
yeah.
man, this space makes everyone so
Well,
paranoid because of all the rug pulls and all the crazy stuff that's going on. But
so
I'm sure I'll look more into them for sure.
so
So,
they're in Australia.
oh, okay,
So just to give you some context around that, Australia is the most legally stringent place on the planet for financial institutions or anybody dealing with money.
yeah, okay,
So the criteria that they have to meet and the standards that they have there are far above and beyond, like, even New York here in the US.
hmm.
And so you can't get scammed. They don't scam. And call them, have a conversation with them, make sure you vet them, do
Yeah,
all
for
that
sure,
stuff. Talk to their manager, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable.
yeah.
I've executed multiple trades on their platform, and I've never had an issue. I'll give you an example. So there was another gentleman that came to me a while back, and he had over $500,000 in XRP, but it was Binance pegged XRP.
Oh man. Okay.
And so I'm like, dude, we got to get you out of
Yeah.
that and get you into real XRP because that's an IOU.
Yeah.
And that's what he was concerned about. But he couldn't go back through Sushi Swap. He couldn't go back through all the swaps because Binance had been removed from the US.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried 10 different ways from Sunday. And I finally was like, look, call Caleb and Brown. They're going to be a 3.5% fee, but they'll get you swapped. And so he calls them, sets up an account, sends it there. They swapped for real XRP and didn't charge him anything because it was in kind. There was no difference for them.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the level of people that you're dealing with, the integrity that they have over there. They helped this individual get his real XRP, and he pulled it right all off of their deal to his cold wallet, safe and secure.
Wow. So if they're in Australia, like what's the difference in setting up an account? Like, is the fact that you have a US account, or I mean, dealing with the US a problem at all?
No.
No? Okay. That's just kind of
Well,
like,
they're going to KYC you just
yeah.
like anybody else would, right? So you got to provide, and it's even more stringent. So just as an example, if you set up an LLC with them, most of the majority of states here in the US don't require that your operating agreement is notarized. Okay. So you'll set up your LLC. To move your assets into an LLC, you're going to have to list them on the capital contributions page of your operating agreement that you create for your LLC. Most states, again, don't require that it's notarized. They do. It's got to be notarized when you send it to them. So the criteria under which, all the documentation is presented and collected is very high. It's a high standard.
Okay. So sounds like there's some more details to that. For anyone who's interested in setting up an LLC that way, maybe that's a separate video for us, or but do you have more information about that? Do they contact you, or I'm sure you help people set people up? So
correct.
Okay, cool.
We have attorneys that will do that.
How much do they charge to help set up your LLCs or that kind of stuff? And I mean, do you have a going rate for that service, or does it depend?
So I don't fee share with any of the professionals that I refer out to.
Okay.
That allows me to sit as a non-biased, holistic advisor with no monetary incentives when I'm sitting on somebody's board of their family office.
Okay.
And I'm also able to nix people if they're not doing what's in the best interest of my clients.
Awesome.
So this individual that I normally use for the LLCs, his name's Michael. He's out of New York. He's licensed in like 47 states for his ability to set up LLCs.
Okay.
He has a registered agent. I like Wyoming for anything that's crypto related, just because, and there's 3 reasons for that too. So one, there's no state tax in Wyoming, similar to here in Texas where I live, which is nice. There's attorney-client privilege. So that means it's very difficult for people to figure out who you are if you own an LLC that's in Wyoming. And then lastly, their laws there are very favorable toward digital assets. They were the first state that had legislation around DAOs. Kraken is there. They were the first bank that was ever given a bank charter in the eyes of like legal bank charter in the US. And then Ripple also relocated there out of California to Wyoming for their corporate office here in the US because of the benefits of the legislation in that state. So that's what I recommend. And Michael charges $800 all in. He has that set up within 24 to 48 hours for you.
Cool. And of course, just to make sure that you can do that, like if we're both in Texas, so I can do that. I'll have to go to Wyoming. He has it all set up. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a registered agent that he works with there that you will pay. I think it's like $100 or $150 a year, and that's included in his fee on the front end.
Okay.
But they allow you to use their address as your address in Wyoming.
Okay. And this isn't like any. Oh, so I guess that's how you get around, because like LegalZoom will help you set up an LLC, right? But that's not like going to help you with the addresses and all that other stuff. I was trying to figure out the differences and the benefits. So is that, is there more than that, or is that the key issue, the address?
That's the main deal. So you could do it on LegalZoom and then call a registered agent that was in Wyoming. There's a bunch of them. Okay. And then pay for the ability to, it's like a virtual office. There is what it is.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I know a friend set up one recently, so I just wanted to like understand. I'm not
what
sure
that
if
looks
that was
like.
just here. Yeah. So what those differences are. Of course, knowing and having a person to talk to, like you said, and having that relationship is key when you're trying to do all these things and making sure that you're covered. Um, but I mean, it's crazy that we have to go through these brokers and not even in our country just to get stuff into where we need it to go. Like it's just
I'm
nuts.
with you, man. I don't think we'll have to deal with that a whole lot longer, just with legislation and everything else coming down the pike. I think 12 months from now, everything will look very different.
Yep. So if someone hits it big, we now know that they need to go to this. You've recommended a couple brokers. Obviously, anyone can reach out to you. I can put your information in the description. And you have a community as well, right? That people can join.
We
So,
do, yeah. We have a mastermind. Through the mastermind, we do private investment. We do education around a lot of the things that we're discussing here.
mhm.
Other financial education, business resources. Within the mastermind, we're able to allow sophisticated investors to get in on private equity deals and other normally investments that would normally be reserved for accredited investors.
Mhm.
People inside the mastermind can get access to.
Awesome. So you're trying to combine unaccredited investors with credited investors, or just unaccredited?
We can do either or as long as they meet the sophisticated investor criteria that we set out. And we feel that all the individuals within our mastermind, because of the educational resources we provide, meet that sophisticated investor requirement.
Ah, I see. That makes sense. I'm sure that'll be very interesting to a lot of people. So, I might even take a look myself. So, we've covered, exchanges and bank accounts, and you've said what's probably the best way, all in between trying to set up the LLC and the brokerage firm. What do you feel like the cost would be to set all that up? Because I'm sure you've helped a couple of people do that. So, is it just the 800 from the lawyer? Like, what is, and the
Yeah.
time?
So um, you can have an operation agreement drawn up by a lawyer if you need to. If it's just a single member LLC, there's lots of templates online.
Yeah.
Um, Happy to provide anybody that wants to contact me with a free one that doesn't even require your email address to get. Like you just download it. It's pretty
Okay.
easy. Um, so you'll have to draft that, and it's got to be specific to your LLC, right? But yeah, just the attorney cost, really, the $800, and the broker doesn't charge you to set up an account. No issue. Bank account. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to put some money in that to fund it. So maybe $100 in your account there
Okay.
to get it going.
Yeah, there's other banks that it's like 15, 2,000, 2,500 just to not get charged. So on a monthly basis. But if you're moving that much in, you don't really care about that. So
No,
uh
no.
um yeah, well, and of course, let's talk about time frame, because if someone is watching this video and they just hit it and they're like, dear God, what do I do? How quickly can this stuff be spun up? So there's downloading the document and then emailing the lawyer, and that's 48 hours, you said. So
Yeah. So about a week is really what it's going to take you. So by time you contact the lawyer, get the LLC set up, 24 to 48 hours on that. You could draft the operating agreement while you're doing that.
okay.
You're going to have to go to the bank. And most banks are going to require that you set a time, right? You can't just walk in anymore after COVID. So have to schedule a time with them, go in, set up the bank account. It's going to take you a couple hours at most banks to get that done. And then once you have the bank account and the LLC, you're going to have to set your account up with Caleb and Brown or another broker. And that's going to take, 48 hours likely with a company, or a little bit longer, maybe 72 hours.
Okay.
So you get a week. It's a week-long process to get done.
Gotcha. I just say that to say is that someone may be like, oh crap, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And they might be, which we're going to talk about, they might be trying to figure out, how do I get this done in a very short amount of time? And so if a week is what it's going to take, I'm sure we're all trying to get ahead now to make sure that's done, right? Um,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah. But let's say someone is watching this video and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to create an LLC and all this stuff right now. What would you advise them to do? And I know that and just real quick, I know you're not a financial or tax advisor, right? So you mentioned a couple things about taxes, and I'm like, I don't necessarily know where it comes from, but I've heard you say that I thought you were not. So I want to make sure that I covered that. This is not
Yeah,
tax
yeah. So
advice. or financial,
Yeah,
either
so
way.
I'll put the disclaimer in here for you. Anything said here is not financial advice. Please always consult your financial advisor, CPA, or attorney before making any financial, tax, or legal decisions. Everything presented here is only for entertainment and educational purposes.
Yes. So good job. But I wanted to make sure that like,
I am not credentialed or licensed in any of these specific regards, and
but you
am
do
not
have,
allowed to give.
yeah,
Right. I partner with people that are.
yes, and you have experience with these situations. That why I'm interviewing you today. So,
Right.
I believe we can draw from. But let's say you have a ton of money now and things have gone extremely well. Move it to a stable coin. Well, what would you do? What was your thought?
You're gonna have tax implications regardless. So you
Oh,
make any trades in your individual name, that's going to be a tax implication. Under an LLC, you can use an LLC that's under a specific NAICS code that I've mentioned before on my channel.
okay.
And then you're not taxed on each transaction. You're just taxed on the overall deal at the end of the year if you're in the business of trading digital assets. But back to your question, you're an individual that's done this. Hopefully you've held it longer than a year.
Yep.
If you haven't, it's going to be short-term capital gains, and that's going to be taxed as normal income. If it's over 300,000, if you're single, like 550. If you're married, that's going to be 37.5% that you're going to owe Uncle Sam. Pretty rough as an individual, and there's really not a way to offset that. Under the LLC, you can do a lot of things to mitigate those taxes, and that's why I encourage people to hold their assets in an LLC. Take the profit, man.
Right.
You can figure it out on the back end, okay? And you've got some other options within that. So we can set up a charitable remainder trust after the events happened, and we can make a donation from your person to the charitable remainder trust. And hopefully you have some philanthropic interest, right? And you have some 501(c)s in mind, or you want to set a foundation up. And we can mitigate a lot of the taxes by doing that. You still remain in control of the funds. You have use of them. You can pay yourself distributions out of that along with the LLC, or not the LLC, but the foundation that you give money to. And you can also invest that capital within the vehicle and generate returns with it. So that's one way that I see people that have hit it big in crypto that didn't have their stuff set up beforehand, kind of offset some of those tax implications. Call a good lawyer. Make sure you have a tax attorney and good people around you. If you don't have a team yet, I would find one.
Okay. Great advice for sure. But basically, you're saying either cash out into whatever the dollar is on that exchange, or go to a stable coin. Would you even recommend stable coins, or do you just plain cashing out like into the exchange's dollars for yourself? Like what would you recommend? Both seem kind of, yeah.
You're gonna get whacked again if you go to the stable coin. So
yeah.
if you swap from a stable coin to cash, that's another taxable event. So I would go straight to cash.
Okay. Interesting.
And some people are going to argue both ways on that. I'm just going to tell you now, it's up in the air, and I would rather caution on the side, or error on the side of that I know is going to be more right. So there might not be any potential tax implication between going from a stable coin to cash, but other people, there's not a clean line there that says one way or the other, and I would rather error on the side of less taxes if possible. So
absolutely. It is, hopefully we'll have something soon, but it's never soon enough to whenever you need it, it seems like. So I'm sure many people that you've helped are have struggled with that. In terms of maybe they've gone out from, have you had people go out from stable coins? Maybe I'm just assuming.
I have, and we filed, my CPA, that is a crypto tax certified professional, filed their taxes in a way that they were not taxed on that transaction. So that's not to say that the IRS doesn't come back on it later on if they were audited.
Yeah. Who
So
knows? Yeah.
again, I would just rather err on the side of caution.
No, that's what I tend to do as well. Anyone that all of a sudden makes a ton of money is probably trying to do the same. So yeah.
When your target too, always pay the IRS something. Don't ever pay zero taxes, because you're more likely to get audited there. I was just on Clinton Donnelly's show the other day, and we talked about a lot of that. I think that'll air early next month is when he's going to put that out. But you think this has been valuable for the question that you've asked, or is there any other concerns you can think of that you think would be valuable for your listeners?
Well, I was thinking about the terms of, if I have made it, I obviously have several other things I'm looking into in terms of crypto, but traditional investing, maybe that's where the brokerage also helps you. But reinvesting, and would you think, or have you had people reinvest the gains that they've had into other investments rather than just take a huge sum out? So
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm of the opinion that you always want your capital to work for you. You want assets that pay for your liabilities, right? So I've talked about before, if you do hit it big in crypto and you cash out, maybe you buy a car wash that pays your car payment. You buy a multifamily property that pays for your house. You buy a business that pays for your lifestyle and trips. Things like that cash flow, that provide you income that can pay for the liabilities that you want, instead of just splurging and buying the liability. You'd rather put it into something that's going to appreciate in cash flow.
Okay. And there's what about the implications of doing that? So obviously any kind of change, if I buy another token, I'm going to get taxed on it, right? So that's going to happen. And you need to be, I guess, prepared for those, take out money to pay taxes for that. Unless you have, I guess, or call Jake and he has ways around it. I'm not sure.
I don't have ways around taxes. Okay.
Okay.
We do not evade taxes.
That's not what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Right. Well, I'm being specific
yeah,
here. So we do not evade taxes, but we use the tax codes that are in place with the professionals that I have to mitigate your tax obligations. And I'll mention the best way that I plan on doing this. I'm currently working with Polysign to set up an FBO account, or a for the benefit of account, for my clients within the family office.
Okay.
We'll be able to hold funds there. They provide $50 million per vault of insurance on your assets. Nice. They have the most secure cold wallet protocol of anything out there. It requires multi-factor authentication and multi-person authentication to move your assets. And we're going to work with a lender out of Sweden. I'm sorry, not Sweden, Switzerland. There's a couple, but hopefully be able to take loans against assets held there. And loans against your assets are not income. They're loans. So no tax implications. You don't have to sell the asset. You get to hold it and have exposure long term. But you still get liquidity that you can use for your lifestyle, or purchasing other assets, or doing other things.
That sounds perfect for an ecosystem that I'm interested in. So I'm very interested in that. And you don't have that set up yet, or you're in the process?
I'm hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll follow up on that for another video. But yes, that could be extremely exciting for a couple of ecosystems. Is Polysign, right? Polysign, do they support all ecosystems? And let's say if you got no, they don't. Okay.
So they currently support 31 or 32 tokens.
Okay.
So Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Avalanche, Solana, Matic, Link, and a bunch of DeFi protocols: Compound, Aave, Farm. Their current demographic has been funds up to this point. And so I'm the first family office that they are dealing with, as far as I'm aware. Maybe there's some other ones now, but they haven't really gone after accredited investors. But accredited investors can hold their tokens there. It's pretty costly. So under my FBO account, we chop that to like a quarter of the cost is what it would normally be for somebody, and we're able to take people that hold lesser amounts. Their threshold is normally $1 million in assets to work with them as an accredited investor.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, obviously there's some different opportunities on the XRPL for to be able to take advantage of loans. And so having that secure place where your stuff is stored and that kind of security would be great if that could be arranged. But the traditional markets, reinvesting. So you obviously have to take the money out and then reinvest it in the traditional markets. Is that where the broker comes in to help you make those purchases?
Well, so we deal with other wealth managers and financial advisors at the
Okay.
family office for that side of things. We have some other people that we could coordinate with that perform a fractional CIO position, so chief investment officer, and they kind of specialize in different areas. I view wealth creation and wealth management like a tree. So you make your money in one vertical, which would be the trunk, and then at the top of the tree, you kind of diversify across multiple sectors, right? So um, I looked at the average billionaire allocations the other day. We did a space on Twitter a few weeks back on that, and the majority of their money is in private equity, just because that's primarily where they've made it. But family offices, their allocations are across the board. So like 27% in cash and cash equivalents. You might have 17% on average in real estate, 20% in stocks and bonds, another 14 or 15% in private equity, and the rest is sprinkled across some annuities and cash flow, like money market stuff, and then maybe some collectibles, and then 5% in more speculative stuff like collectibles or cryptocurrency. And then obviously there's a small portion there that might make up another 5% that's gold and commodities. That's about average for family offices that are well diversified.
Wow. Okay. Uh, I haven't considered all that much diverse yet, but it sounds like a good breakdown.
Well, you have 100 million plus.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you want to make sure that you're inversely correlated across multiple verticals within things. So sometimes something's not performing well, it's going down, something else is inversely correlated, it's going up, and then you kind of balance your portfolio that way.
No, that makes total sense. I just obviously run a family office, and so therefore you're very prepared to make sure all those things balance. So that's really cool. I was just thinking about, well, what about this stock and what about that crypto? So, um, it's
Well, I mean,
I'm not thinking on that level, so it's cool.
you want to be in asymmetric bets across the board. You want to look for opportunities in each one of those areas, and that's why you want to work with different wealth managers or CIOs that are experts in which regard, right? So you might have professionals, and I have them in all across. So I have some people that are proficient with just real estate or even just specific types of real estate. So it might be multifamily, commercial, raw land development, industrial, or even residential, and residential could be broken down. It could be wholesale, short sale, flips, Airbnb. There's segments of segments in those markets and verticals. And you want to find people that have been doing whatever they've been doing for a couple decades, have been through some recessions and have experience. And so I've just been blessed enough to surround myself with a lot of those people. And I'm able to provide those people for people that come to me for the family office as well.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about all this stuff, but I feel like there's still a lot of people that are going to be, I guess, caught by, not being prepared. And this is, even to me, this is a lot more that I was even thinking of. I thought you're just going to be like, hey, go to this person and they'll help you out, which I guess is the brokerage it is, but setting up an LLC, which I think I need to do anyways for what I do with here. So, but they might be wondering where all the money's coming from at some point. But yeah, let's also talk real quick about those who are getting caught. And let's say they've seen this video, they've been stuck a couple weeks, and they've been taking hundreds of thousands, as much as they can out as often as they can from different places, and they're trying to conglomerate it. They're having issues with their bank. This persona, how do they get unstuck? And do they work backwards and go through the LLC? Is there any mitigating steps you would take, or things that you've experienced that they should do? Or
It's kind of a horror story at that point, and I hate to be bleak like that, but once your bank accounts are frozen and they're under investigation, you're kind of at the mercy of the bank. You don't have much leverage at that point because they own the money. You don't, it's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point of banks, right? And that's why people love cryptocurrency, is you kind of take ownership of those things. You want to set up these precautions. I've withdrawn large amounts to my bank account from exchanges, and they've been locked for extended periods of time. And that's why I'm kind of familiar with this and the protocols and ways to get it done, because I've been there and messed up. So it just takes time, and I hate to say that. You're going to have to prove where those funds came from. They're going to do due diligence on you. They're going to make sure that they're not illegal in any way. Definitely have a conversation with your bank before you make a wire to the bank for anything that's not a normal amount in your bank account, 5-6 figures. They're going to want to know where it came from. Hopefully, you've had that conversation with them before you make that withdrawal. If you haven't, they're going to flag it. And then you're kind of caught. And I don't want to say caught like it's a bad thing, but you're stuck, and you're going to have to prove.
So what do you mean by prove? Like,
so
because you've been through that process, I'd love to hear that.
You're going to have to show them the money trail. So where it left your bank account, went to the exchange, where it sat in the cryptocurrency, the transaction for when you sent that cryptocurrency to Caleb and Brown, to the broker or the exchange where you sent it. You're going to have to prove all the way back from the distribution to your bank account to where it was sent to the exchange.
Wow. Okay.
Not fun.
Yeah. Down to the specific token, or just in the general funds? Like,
well, it depends on how many you're cashing out, right? So whatever made up the total amount that you cashed out that caused the flag.
Okay. They just want to see a money trail. Okay.
Yeah, it's KYC and AML compliance for them.
Okay.
If they don't do it, then they're under the scrutiny of the laws that they abide by and the regulations, right? So that's why you fill out the form. If you're taking out more than $10,000, they're going to make you fill out a form. Anything over 5 figures, if you're not moving that through your bank account on a regular basis, I would definitely have a conversation with the bank before moving funds there. And if they tell you, if it comes from crypto, we're going to flag it, I would go get another bank account set up under an LLC. Maybe you leave the funds on Caleb and Brown in cash until you've gone the other way and set it up like you should.
Gotcha. And let's say that you don't want to deal with the banks, and you have finally set up this great situation with Polysign. Is there tell us a little bit more about that and how that should work, provided everything goes the way you think?
Perfect. So you'll be able to onboard underneath my account with them. It still costs the same onboarding fee. The fees are substantially less on a monthly basis under my account versus just as an individual. Okay. And you'll go through a demo with them. And then there's some paperwork that you have to sign, disclosures, and then you have to appoint somebody else or multiple people that are able to sign transactions with you. It's really built for a trust. If you have your assets in a trust or an LLC, that's who they want to deal with. Anybody that I bring in under my account is going to have to be, their assets need to be in a holding company or a trust. I'm not able to deal with individuals. And so all of this stuff that I'm talking about now is pretty much a prerequisite to even deal with Polysign. So if you have it inside of a trust, you'll have a trustee that has to approve transactions for you. And that could be you if it's, a living trust. And there'll be, other people that are on your financial committee or professionals that you deal with that might also authorize the transaction. And anyway, so you'll have to fill out a couple forms, and then you'll send the money over to the wallet address that they give you, which has the encrypted keys. So this is how their cold wallet works, which is cool. So David Schwartz and Arthur Brito designed this, so I geek out on it. But they have the keys, they encrypt them, they shard them, and then they hold them on hardware that's on different continents in multiple locations. Okay, so it can't be hacked by a quantum computer. And then when you go through the full process to remove the assets, so you've got a YubiKey, you plug it into your computer, you type in your password, it shoots a video of you saying your passwords and stuff that you have to read off the screen, submits that, then it pings the next person, because it's multi-person that has to sign this. Sometimes it could be 3 or 4 people. just depending on how stringent you want it to be. They go in, they do the same thing, YubiKey, password, read off the screen, video, sends it off. And then they have 10 parties that they've partnered with to authorize those videos and verify that they're you. That's randomly selected. They don't know which one it's going to be, pings them. They have to verify that information. And then once they've verified that it is you and whoever the other person is, they'll initiate the transaction. It'll pull the keys that are sharded across all the different jurisdictions back together, execute the transaction, reshard them, send them back out again.
Gotcha. And that's for any transaction.
Yes, it's 7 to 15 minutes to get a transaction to go through on their platform.
Ooh, okay.
But you're not trading anything. They don't offer any financial products whatsoever. The only thing they do is custody.
Okay.
At standard custody and trust.
No, I hear that. I'm just like, I've got some other things in mind that I'm trying to figure out how that would work with and different things. So cool. No, that helps a lot. And I just, I'm sure there's many people out there that are so tired of the banking system that are like, please give me another option. And Jake, if you got one, like I'm sure a lot of people be interested. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I'll make it public when everything's official for sure.
Gotcha. I'm very interested in those fees as well, because those sound hefty, but maybe not whenever
I'll tell you what they are.
Okay.
So it's $1,000 onboarding fee.
Okay.
To their platform, and then if you had a personal account, the minimum fee is $500 a month, or $5,500 if you pay it up front. And then if you're above 2.5 million in assets, there it's 24 basis points. So a basis point, if you had 100 basis points, that'd be 1%. So it's a little less than 0.25% of your assets there on an annual basis, just for the custody. So if you have, let's say you had $100 million there, 24 basis points is going to be 24,000 on 100 million. Significant. Under my account, it'll be less than half that.
Cool. But yeah, still not, if you have that amount of money, it's like, okay. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
So like,
well, they know that, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm sure that's part of the model, I'm sure. And lastly, for many people that are, like myself, that are interested, but they're like, they don't know you as well. You mentioned that, you don't take, I guess, fees or fee sharing from any of these other people. So you're not incentivized, which I love, by the way. That's really great. But how do you in the family office make money? Like how do things work? So if people have an understanding of the clarity there.
Yeah. So there's 3 types of family offices. One is a single family office. So if you have over 100 million, you would in-house all these professionals that I have relationships with. So you would go out and find all these people, bring them in. They would work specific for you to run a single family office. It's normally somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 million dollars a year.
Wow. Okay.
And that's to pay all the fees associated with all the professionals that work specific for you. And obviously the cost there makes sense if you have more than 100 million. Less than that, probably not. So that's why these other models exist. So below that, north of 30 million up to the $100 million mark, you might work with a multifamily office. And that's somebody, and this is where we plan to move over time. Okay. But we will in-house those professionals. We'll be a separate company that deals with multiple families, right? And so we'll have all those professionals in-house, and they'll do all the work for the families that we work with. And then lastly is a virtual family office or a digital family office, which is what we currently are. So it's like a hub and spoke model. It's me and a few part-time people currently. And then we have the relationships with all these different professionals across the board that we refer out to, basically. And I charge a retainer on the front end when I work with a client. And that's what I do is I set up the family constitution, core values, mission statement, principles within that documentation for the family, help you set up an ethics document. And then I also set up governance around how the money can be used for future generations and the current one. And then we'll set up a board of advisors and a financial committee that help you direct the funds and operations within the family.
So you have that retainer fee, which I'm guessing is not small, but it's at the same time. Do you also help people set up trusts? I'm assuming, or
I have multiple trust attorneys that do that. Yes.
Okay. What, including foreign trusts, or how does that work?
Yes, I've got Cook Islands, which I can do, and then I've got another attorney that's out of Utah that can set up international entities in Singapore, Dubai, Switzerland, wherever you want to go.
Interesting. So how, if people are preparing and they want to use your services, how in the world do they make that retainer to get all this stuff set up
I don't charge it.
on the
So
front end?
on the front end, yeah. So I have an initial consult fee that people pay me,
Okay.
and I provide all the resources on the front end so that you can be proactive in setting things up to mitigate taxes, and then hopefully there's some reciprocity on the back end of that they come back and want to work with me.
Awesome. That sounds like a great model. So I'm sure it's worked out pretty good so far. Well, I really appreciate you on. I feel like there's many more things that I've probably forgotten to ask. So if you're in the you want to put in the comments below questions, I'm happy to have Jake back on again and get him to answer some of those things. Hopefully maybe once Polysign, happens, we can have a follow-up.
For sure.
But thank you so much for coming on, Jake. And again, I'm JTXRP, and this has been What to Do Whenever Things Go Big, and I'm out.